There are things in the Bible no one ever taught you, maybe because they didn't even know what they truly meant. There is a verse, forgotten by many and ignored by others, that hides one of the greatest secrets of spiritual manifestation in history. And it could change everything in your life. Yes, everything. But here's the detail almost no one talks about: this verse only activates its power when read at a specific moment, right before sleep. It may sound simple, even naive, but it's not. Science has already proven that the mental state before sleep is the most powerful time to reprogram the subconscious mind. And spirituality? It's known that for millennia. Now, why has no one told you this before? Because we're trapped in a culture of automatic prayers and rushed readings, no presence, no energy, no vibrational awareness. But this verse is not just another one, it's a code. A code that, when read with active faith, a spiritually aligned heart, and clear intention, starts to reshape your reality from the inside out. And no, this isn't theory. It's practice. It's transformation. It's what happens when you stop using the Bible as a decorative object and start using it as a living tool for co-creation with God. So here's a warning: if you're satisfied with the life you have, maybe this video isn't for you. But if there's something inside, even just a flicker, asking for change, for expansion, for answers, then read that verse tonight. Read it with your soul. Because what happens next, there may be no turning back. And maybe, just maybe, that's the best news you'll hear today. Since the dawn of humanity, human beings have carried a silent restlessness in their hearts, an inner whisper that says, there's something more. It doesn't matter the culture, the era, or social status, everyone dreams of something greater. And it's not just ego talking. That deep desire comes from a much higher place, the spiritual heart. It's a divine spark that reminds us we weren't born just to survive, but to live with meaning, purpose, and expansion. The Bible, often forgotten by many, doesn't dismiss this longing, it confirms it. And more than that, it shows us how to direct it. This is where many people go wrong: they confuse achieving dreams with instant magic. As if simply wishing hard enough would make the universe, like some heavenly waiter, deliver their order on a silver platter. But true dreams, the ones that vibrate in harmony with our life purpose, don't work like that. They demand active faith, spiritual maturity, and action with faith. And above all, patience, because God's timing follows its own sacred rhythm. Take this as an example: how many people claim they want peace, yet feed conflict every day? External reality doesn't arise by chance, it is born from inner alignment. When you understand that dreams are codes of spiritual manifestation, everything shifts. You stop treating your desires as whims and begin to see them as maps for your own spiritual growth. The difference is, this map doesn't come with GPS. It comes through intuition, through signs, through verses in the Bible that suddenly shine like never before. Have you noticed how certain Bible verses seem to find you at the exact right moment? That's not coincidence. It's spiritual synchronicity. It's divine wisdom whispering in your ear, this is the way. And at that point, it's worth opening your eyes to something essential: many of your dreams are not your own inventions, they are divine inspirations. A calling that manifests through what you feel, desire, and visualize with faith. And when you ignore these callings, something inside you begins to fade. That feeling of living on autopilot, even when everything on the outside looks right? It could be this: the disconnection from God's promise, from your divine alignment. That's why you must not ignore your dreams. Question them, yes. Refine them. But take them seriously. This is the path where faith steps out of the realm of ideas and enters the realm of action. Because fulfilling dreams is not just about believing, it's about visualizing with faith, making different decisions, breaking out of the automatic loop. Sometimes, the first practical step is simply silencing the noise in your mind and asking, does this dream bring me closer to or further from my essence? A sincere heart always hears the answer. And when that answer comes, a powerful prayer stops being just a request, it becomes a declaration of inner transformation. But before any transformation can take place, you must understand where this creative force comes from. And the answer, surprisingly, does not come from outside. It comes from the most neglected place by those chasing their dreams, your own heart. The heart is not just a biological organ pumping blood. According to scripture and countless spiritual traditions, it is the vibrational center of our existence. Jesus didn't speak idle words when he said, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." That's more than poetic, it's a spiritual code. Because what you truly value, what you feed daily with your attention and intention, becomes the lens through which you create your reality. And here's a powerful truth: your favorite Bible verse might be memorized by heart, but if that heart is full of fear, it won't do a thing. A misaligned heart cancels out active faith. You know that person who says they want a peaceful life, but spends the day judging others and nurturing negative thoughts? Exactly. It's not enough to speak with your lips. The heart is what manifests. It's like a spiritual antenna. It receives, amplifies, and broadcasts the dominant frequency of the soul. When someone is aligned with Christian hope and their divine purpose, even challenges become stepping stones. But when the heart is clouded by doubt, even blessings feel like burdens. The Bible, often forgotten, reminds us, above all else, guard your heart. So how do you guard the heart? Not with a lock of iron, but with divine wisdom. It means carefully choosing what comes in and what flows out. A practical example? Your daily content diet, what you read, watch, and listen to. Does it feed your fear or your faith? Here's a suggestion: replace some of your social media time with uplifting reading, books like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle or Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, which nourish focus and inner transformation. Over time, the heart aligns with higher truths, and reality begins to reflect that. Some people say, "But I've been praying, I've been reading the Word, why hasn't anything changed?" The real question isn't what you're doing, but with what energy you're doing it. If your heart is silently saying, "This won't work," then that's the seed you're planting, even while you pray. It's like planting a seed and digging it up every day to see if it's growing. The spiritual heart needs trust, it needs visualization with faith. And this isn't self-help, it's biblical structure. It's transformation rooted in spiritual truth. Maybe you've never thought about it like this, but everything you manifest carries the invisible signature of your heart. The most powerful prayer isn't the prettiest one, it's the most sincere. The one that comes from deep within, aligned with divine intention, without masks. Have you noticed how certain prayers made with pure emotion seem to materialize faster and stronger? Well, the secret isn't in the words, it's in the frequency they vibrate within you. That's why aligning the heart is more important than memorizing prayer formulas. And once you understand this, you realize the Bible isn't just a book to read, it's a mirror for your heart. Each verse is an opportunity to tune your inner frequency. And there's one verse, in particular, that many have forgotten. But it holds a hidden code of spiritual manifestation, divine alignment, and timeless wisdom. Would you like to discover which one it is? Between the pages of the Bible, there are verses that jump out and others that go unnoticed. But sometimes, it's precisely in those forgotten ones where the deepest codes of transformation are hidden. A verse that rarely gets quoted in sermons, doesn't show up on Christian mugs or t-shirts, may in fact hold a profound invitation to active faith. It's as if God placed a symbolic key there, waiting for the right moment for someone, in sincere search, to find it. And when it's found, everything changes. Not by magic, but by alignment. The verse doesn't create miracles, it awakens the part of you that is capable of living them. This forgotten verse isn't a winning lottery ticket, nor a secret password to heaven. It is a seed. And as we know, a seed only bears fruit when it falls into fertile soil. That is, the spiritual heart of someone who reads with attention, meditates with intention, and acts with courage. Many read it as just another line, but those who see beyond the words recognize its power of activation. Just as certain songs seem to speak directly to you on your hardest days, some verses become deeply personal, as if they were written just for your soul. And maybe they were. Let's reflect together. What if this verse is pointing to a kind of spiritual manifestation that goes beyond just praying, and calls you to live in alignment with what you believe? Because believing in something while acting in the opposite direction is like rowing with your arms while pressing the brakes with your feet. The Bible teaches us to ask with faith, without doubting. But it also speaks to the power of visualizing with faith, of positioning yourself as if the promise is already unfolding. That's what transforms a forgotten verse into a compass. It doesn't fulfill your dreams for you, it reveals the direction of your own fulfillment. And this is where the symbolic beauty of sacred scripture comes alive. A verse doesn't need to be literal to be true. Just as Jesus spoke through parables, there are passages in the Word that must be felt before they are understood. This forgotten verse may not promise immediate blessings, but it plants within you a new awareness. The awareness that the spiritual life isn't just about asking, but about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts through vibration, faithful action, and inner transformation. Want a simple example? Imagine someone who repeats the verse every night before sleep, as part of their powerful prayer. But throughout the day, they feed thoughts of lack, complaint, and comparison. That person is in misalignment. Now take someone else, who reads the verse and uses it as a guide to align, to make more conscious decisions, to practice Christian hope. That person is fertilizing the soil. Same verse, two outcomes. The difference? Not how it's read, but how it's lived. This verse, which will soon be revealed, is not just any key. It is a symbolic key, one that only unlocks the door to spiritual manifestation when used with maturity. And that's why we must go beyond the surface. We must understand where it came from, the biblical context around it, and what it's truly trying to reveal. Because without that understanding, we risk using sacred tools as if they were mere lucky charms. The Bible is not just any book, it's a living organism. And each verse, no matter how short or simple it may seem, is part of a greater body, the spiritual story of humanity. When we read a verse in isolation, without understanding the biblical context in which it was written, we risk distorting its essence. It's like pulling a sentence from someone's private journal and trying to summarize their entire life based on that alone. The forgotten verse we've been speaking about gains its power not just from the words themselves, but from the historical moment, the author, the audience, and the spiritual intent behind those words. Many people read the Bible as if it were a modern manual, when in fact it is a collection of sacred books written across centuries, each with its own language, culture, and symbolic codes. That's why understanding the spiritual context of a verse is just as important as memorizing it. Who wrote it? To whom? In what situation? And why? These questions unlock a deeper layer of divine wisdom. For example, a verse from David about trust carries a whole new weight when you realize he wrote it while surrounded by enemies, fleeing to save his own life. That changes everything. God's promise within a verse becomes more alive when you understand it was spoken in a setting of pain, despair, or silence. The powerful prayer you say today may have been born out of a declaration of faith in an ancient spiritual battlefield. And that connects you to something greater, a lineage of souls who chose to believe, even when they couldn't see. The active faith you now practice is rooted in real stories of inner transformation, forged in chaos, not comfort. That makes the text not only inspiring, but profoundly human. Take the prophets, for instance. How many of them spoke words that now sound simple, but were uttered in the midst of persecution, deserts, and scarcity? When you read Isaiah, Jeremiah, or even the Psalms, remember, these voices weren't speaking from golden palaces, they were in caves, fields, prisons. That's why each Bible verse carries an energetic weight far beyond grammar. It carries vibration, suffering, surrender. And the deeper you dive into that, the more your spiritual heart opens to understanding. That's why simply reciting a verse like a mantra isn't enough. You must respect its origin, its spiritual root. And more than that, you must translate it into your own life, your time, your process. A verse written in the Old Testament may echo powerfully through your current dilemma, but only if you understand the bridge between yesterday and today. Divine wisdom doesn't expire. It adapts, reveals itself, and moves according to your willingness to study it deeply, not hurriedly. So, if you truly want this forgotten verse to unlock something within you, begin by approaching it as if you were studying an ancient map, full of symbols and clues. And remember, the most valuable treasures are hidden beneath layers of time and revelation. And the next layer, perhaps the most decisive of all, has everything to do with how you act upon the faith you carry. Many people believe that having faith is enough. As if simply believing strongly in something would magically organize everything around it. But true faith, the kind that moves mountains, is not passive. It is pure action. It's movement with courage. The Bible shows us this time and time again. Peter only walked on water because he stepped out of the boat. If he had waited for a clearer sign, he would have missed the miracle. That's what active faith looks like, a sacred blend of trust and initiative. And this applies to everything, from a personal project to emotional healing. Spiritual manifestation doesn't happen just because you made one heartfelt request. It happens when that request becomes a way of life. Believing is the first step, but acting with faith is the fuel. It's like a plant. It's not enough to plant the seed, you have to water it, tend to it, prune what doesn't serve. Here's a practical example. If you dream of changing your financial life, yes, prayer is important. But you also need to study, take action, open doors. Books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad or Secrets of the Millionaire Mind can be tools to align your mindset with your faith. Active faith also demands persistence. Because the fruit doesn't always appear with the first effort. And here's the deeper truth, the invisible responds to your commitment. The universe, God, the divine codes, however you name it, they respond to consistency. It's as if your energetic frequency is being tested. Do you truly want this, or are you just curious? Many give up halfway because they confuse difficulty with divine rejection. But often, it's just the soil adjusting so the roots can grow stronger. And what happens when someone combines faith, action, and persistence? A form of divine alignment starts working behind the scenes. Doors open, the right people show up, ideas emerge from nowhere, or rather, from the invisible everything. That's not coincidence. It's the result of a mind and heart tuned into God's promise. Action with faith is like knocking confidently on the right door. And when you knock knowing you have the right to enter, the chances of being welcomed are far greater. And if it's not the right door, divine wisdom will redirect your path. But here's the warning, acting with faith doesn't mean running around doing everything in a rush. It means acting with clarity, with powerful prayer in your soul and mental focus rooted in spirit. Before making any major decision, pause. Breathe. Pray. Visualize with faith what you wish to manifest. And only then, move. That's the difference between acting out of desperation and acting out of revelation. Those who learn to distinguish these two save themselves years of frustration, and build results on solid ground. Results that don't come to test you, but to confirm you. And if all of this still feels too abstract, here's an invitation. Choose one single dream. Something you've carried in your heart for a long time. Take that dream and turn it into a project. Pray over it. Write down practical steps. Create one small daily habit. Align yourself. Because in the next section, we'll take this verse you've discovered and turn it into a living practice, something to use, feel, and experience every day on your spiritual journey. Knowing a Bible verse by heart is one thing. Living that verse, every day, is something completely different. Inner transformation doesn't happen at the moment of reading, but through conscious repetition. It is in the habit that faith becomes solid. It's like taking a natural remedy. It may seem harmless at first, but over time, it begins to act in deep and subtle ways. Applying a Bible verse to everyday life is like planting a divine principle in the soil of your routine, and that requires attention. It's not about memorizing words. It's about cultivating presence. So, how do you do that in a real, practical way? The answer lies in the creation of small rituals. You don't need to light candles or perform elaborate ceremonies. All it takes is intention, focus, and repetition. Here's a practical example. Every night before bed, repeat the chosen verse with emotion, not mechanically, but as someone declaring a truth already unfolding. Then, close your eyes and visualize with faith the experience you wish to manifest. Not as someone waiting for an external miracle, but as someone already participating in co-creation with God. And it doesn't stop there. After visualizing, take a concrete step. That might mean sending an email, writing down an idea, forgiving someone, or even turning off your phone early to protect your mind. The action doesn't have to be grand, it just has to be aligned. When you combine powerful prayer with practical action, you begin to reprogram your subconscious mind. Little by little, your energetic frequency shifts, your behavior transforms, and your results begin to reflect that change. You start manifesting what is aligned with your spiritual heart and your life purpose. Many people overlook this and keep jumping from verse to verse, hoping to find one that works. But it's not about finding the strongest verse, it's about living consistently what you believe. It's like spiritual strength training. A verse only produces results when it becomes a lifestyle. The heart needs to be trained to believe, even when the eyes can't see. That's what active faith is. It's waking up each day and choosing alignment, even when the world screams chaos. The true power of faith isn't found in easy days, but in persistence through uncertainty. Now, if you're ready to go further, here's a challenge for you. For 21 days, repeat this verse daily at the same time. Visualize with faith and take coherent action. Write down what you feel, what shifts, what insights come during the process. This is a simple but powerful mental exercise that aligns your vibration with spiritual manifestation. By the end of this period, you'll realize that the verse is no longer just a phrase, it has become a living code imprinted within you. And that's where true transformation begins. But before you begin this practice, there's one essential truth you must understand, one that many ignore. God's timing is not our timing. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about next. Because understanding the difference between waiting and frustration might be the missing key for your faith to become truly unshakable. Perhaps one of the hardest things for a human being is to wait. The soul wants to fly, but life sometimes moves as if on crutches. And in that space between the dream and its fulfillment, frustration takes root. The heart cries out for answers, but heaven seems silent. The truth is, God's timing rarely matches our clock. And that's not punishment, it's wisdom. There is an invisible process of preparation happening behind the scenes. That Bible verse you've been repeating in faith isn't an emergency button, it's a spiritual compass. And not every shortcut is the best path. You know when you ask for something with all your heart and it feels like the universe just ignores you? That feeling, though painful, may actually reveal one of the greatest expressions of divine love, timing. God is never late, but He also won't deliver what you're not yet ready to hold. A child doesn't receive a sword before learning how to carry it. In the same way, some dreams only manifest when you've developed the emotional, spiritual, and even physical structure to sustain them. And this is not about worthiness, it's about preparation. Frustration, in this light, can be a kind of divine break. Not to stop you, but to protect you. How many people do you know who achieved their dreams only to fall apart emotionally? Perhaps they reached too quickly what was meant to arrive through process. Christian hope is not blind. It is patient. And patience doesn't mean stillness, it means being active in silence, trusting, breathing with faith. It's like planting a seed and knowing the sprout will emerge, not today, not tomorrow, but at the exact right time. When the forgotten Bible verse enters this context, it becomes more than motivation, it becomes an anchor. It reminds you, on the days when your faith wavers, that God's promise still stands. But be careful, a promise isn't a fast delivery product. It's a calling. A calling for you to grow, mature, and align with your life purpose. And until that happens fully, the silence may be the most divine answer of all. Because in that silence, heaven is working on details your eyes can't see, but your spiritual heart can feel. This is where active faith becomes its most powerful, when nothing seems to be happening on the outside, but something stays alive within. And it's not empty hope, it's vibrational trust. You pray, you visualize, you act, and you wait. But you wait as someone who is already on the path, not someone abandoned on the roadside. Spiritual manifestation honors rhythms, cycles, and seasons. Trying to force God's timing is like trying to make a flower bloom by shouting at it. It doesn't work, it only wounds the process. It's better to tend to the roots, day after day. And speaking of roots, there is one last point in this journey, perhaps the most important of all. Because fulfilling a dream is not about getting something. It's about becoming something. And that verse, the one that once seemed like just an inspiring phrase, now reveals itself as a final key. A key to unlock the true meaning of spiritual fulfillment. Fulfilling a dream is not just about achieving something on the outside, it's about becoming someone on the inside. That's why so many reach their goals and still feel empty. The forgotten verse in the Bible wasn't written to promise you a life of ease, but to awaken your spiritual identity. It wasn't meant to massage the ego, but to align the spirit. And when you begin to live this verse with active faith, it stops being a quote, and becomes a frequency. A vibration that shapes who you are becoming, not just what you want to achieve. God's promise is not a transaction. It's an invitation. A calling to leave behind the illusion of autopilot and walk in the direction of your life's purpose. While the world shouts, achieve, Christian spirituality whispers, be. True fulfillment happens when you look in the mirror and finally recognize. This is who I am, but I am also more than this. I am a vessel. And that's the moment the verse becomes unforgettable, because it's no longer just read, it's lived, embodied, breathed. You begin to feel it when you act with more intention. Every powerful prayer becomes a conscious step. Every visualization with faith becomes a vibrational construction. And every small daily choice reflects the divine alignment now pulsing within you. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. A spiritually present heart can transform even the most ordinary task into an act of co-creation with the sacred. That's spiritual manifestation in its purest form, bringing heaven into your reality. It's in that space of clarity and maturity that the verse shines. It becomes an anchor in storms, a compass in doubt, a flame in darkness. You may not see immediate external change, but something within you shifts, and once that happens, the world inevitably responds. It's as if the universe acknowledges, this soul understands now. And from that moment on, everything takes on a new color, a new rhythm, a new meaning. Faith stops being uncertain hope, and becomes vibrational certainty. But understand this, the process doesn't end. It evolves. Because after all of this, after living the verse, applying it, waiting, growing, you begin to realize that fulfilling dreams is only the tip of the iceberg. What comes next is even more powerful, living with awareness. And living with awareness means recognizing that every step is a stairway toward the heaven within you. Those who live this way don't move by anxiety, but by revelation. And in that rhythm, the impossible stops being an obstacle, and becomes a possibility. And it's at that exact moment, when the heart has understood and the spirit has begun to align, that the mind quietly asks, what if I read this verse every night, before I sleep? What might begin to happen? Well then, it's time to find out. And now that you know this verse, the question echoing in your heart is no longer, does it work? But, do I have the courage to truly apply this? Because knowledge without practice is just stored information. But when you put it into action, even for just a few days, you begin to witness the invisible becoming real. And from that point on, my friend, there's no going back. Active faith changes the way you dream, the way you pray, the way you act, and the way you live. Think about it. How many times have you gone to sleep asking for an answer, and woken up with the same doubt? Maybe what was missing wasn't more effort, but spiritual direction. And you just received it. Will you let it pass you by? Will you let routine distract you again? Or will you, this time, boldly test what God is revealing to you right now? Because if something stirred inside you as you listened to this, don't ignore it. This isn't a coincidence. It's a calling. And callings like this don't show up twice with the same strength. So here's my challenge to you, tonight, before you sleep, read the verse with presence. Not out of superstition, but out of faith. Pray with intention. Visualize with clarity. And tomorrow, just watch what happens. But only do this if you're truly ready to see your life begin aligning with something greater. Because when the Spirit responds, reality obeys. And believe me, you didn't find this video by accident. Now tell me, what verse has marked your journey the most so far? What have you experienced when you applied the word with living faith? Share it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this message spoke to you, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell. Because there's so much more to come. This was just the beginning.